live from Sales HQ. I'm Vince Beasy, the founder of Sales HQ, and your podcast host today. I'm a little nasally sorry. I was coming down from a cold, so excuse my nasally voice.
We're getting through it.
Our guest today, the esteemed Josh Hein.
Sure, thank you.
We'll get into this, but part of the Citrix Mafia.
That's right. You could say that.
I think we've narrowed it down to your number 3 or 4 or 5 of you guys really multiply in this area.
Yeah, that's quite a few. I mean, you said you've had, what is this, podcast 20, right?
This is number 20.
And 4 or 5 of them have been Citrix or former Citrix.
That's right. Gosh, you could probably just do a podcast with current and previous
no doubt.
Citrix just in the Raleigh area.
That's right. We are all over the place.
Well, welcome to the show. Before we
thanks.
get to that, Sales HQ, what is it? Well, do you guys remember working from a sales floor back in the day when you started a job, you sat next to someone who was kicking ass in sales and you learned from that person? It was called peer-to-peer learning.
That's right.
And it was the best onboarding you ever got. Well, that's what we're replicating here, is that most of the folks in here are remote sellers or remote sales teams, and they come in here so they can get that feel of what it's like to work on a sales floor. But more than that, it's collaboration, it's community. You know, we do this podcast, we do master classes and education stuff. So it's more than just a seat. It's about coming in here and working with others that take the craft of what we do, sales, seriously. So
absolutely,
that's what Sales HQ is about. You can get more information from saleshq.co. So now let's get back to you, Josh.
And first, let me just say with Sales HQ, if you don't mind.
I don't.
By the way, I'm not being paid to say this, but I love the getting everyone together. And like you said, there's so many remote sellers, but I'm a huge advocate myself of having salespeople around salespeople. There's so much, like you said, learning that can be done, the energy that's there. There's nothing better than hearing someone ring the bell or hit the gong or whatever it is. And, you know, I think that success breeds success. There's some momentum to be had there. So anyway.
And you went to the event last Wednesday.
I did. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And it was a very well attended event. I met a lot of people, and I think that, you know, it goes to show too, we're not alone in feeling that way.
No.
I think there are a lot of people who feel the same way and appreciate that. So.
No, and again, because we're on this topic, so I think it's a relevant topic. We'll get back to, but it's like the more I now speak to sales leaders, they're like, "Oh my God, I've got 20 salespeople across the country." I wake up every day wondering if they're motivated, and what they're doing. Your space, if we had one where I live, would be great because they want to go into something like this. But I feel better as a leader that they're getting a benefit that they really need. As opposed to, think about all the thousands of dollars we spend on salespeople for software, which isn't for sales productivity and performance. It's tracking typically, right?
Sure.
So this is kind of a benefit that really would benefit salespeople and sales leaders.
Right? Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that there are obviously benefits of the remote work, and you know, studies show that maybe some hybrid, right, is maybe a better way to go. But you can't replace. And I thought it was interesting too. You just mentioned onboarding, because I think that is huge. I mean, when you get someone brand new in a role and they can come in and be around the people that have been doing it for a while or had success, super valuable.
So one of the members here just started a new job. The company's in San Francisco, and I'm like, "Hey, when are you flying out to San Francisco?" He started on a Monday. He sat at the desk and he did his onboarding virtual.
Wow, the whole thing, huh?
Entire week he was on video. The entire week. I'm like, what a waste.
Yeah, and I assume
it's like doing sales kickoff virtually.
Yeah, right.
Like, what's the sense?
Right.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Wait till you can send them out to do the onboarding in person. So anyway, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're up to, Josh.
Yeah. So you know, like you said, I think been with was part of this sort of Citrix group for a number of years. I was actually there when we were ShareFile, so before we were acquired by Citrix, and that was a really great experience. I certainly learned a lot. You know, just doing that. And then my career with Citrix sort of progressed from sales to vertical director to management, and then ultimately training. And training was by far the most fulfilled, I would say, that I felt that entire time. I love sales. I've done a lot of I've sold all kinds of different products and services, B2B, B2C, throughout my life. And I will say, while I really loved selling, the training part is what really fired me up. And I actually got a coaching minor in college because I always wanted to be a coach, and I never really sort of connected those two things. And I think that, you know, once I became a trainer at Citrix, it really clicked for me. especially seeing results. It's amazing to help someone or take someone brand new or whatever it is, and you give them some information, you train them, you teach them some things, they use it, and then it changes their life. And so that's what I'm trying to do. I'm training both individual salespeople right now,
right,
as well as going in and training teams. So I'll work with a company and go in and train their team. It's great. I love changing people's lives.
It's good that you really found what your calling was or what you feel passionate about, because sometimes it takes people a lot longer to figure it out.
Absolutely.
Let's go back in time.
Yeah.
What was your first sales job?
Yeah. So my I always tell people where I got my start in sales wasn't actually a job. It was for my high school football team, and it was fundraising cards. So this is, we got looked like a credit card on the back and had all the discounts for local businesses, right?
Yeah, I remember those.
So most guys, everybody had to sell 5 or 10 of them, and most guys would send the sheet to work with their parents, and you get your minimum done and you're good, right? And raise the money for the team. And I probably thought the same way until I found out that there was a college scholarship reward for the top sellers.
Oh, wow.
And this company who did our cards, they do that program for schools around the nation, right?
Yep.
So top sellers in the country would get a scholarship for going to school. And so I said, well, look, I'm going to go get that scholarship. Yeah. And so that's what I did. I was on my bike every day after practice or after school. And I literally just took my bike around all the neighborhoods, and I knew I'd gone too far when one of our opposing teams moms answered the door and was like, "You got to go. I'm not buying your card." Yeah. So I just grinded on my bike, and I won the scholarship my junior year. I was a top 10 in the nation, and my senior year, I was the #1 seller in the nation.
For real?
Of the cards.
How much did you sell?
It was hundreds of cards. I had people buying multiple cards as gifts, and I mean, it was a lot.
How much was the scholarship? Do you remember?
I don't remember how much it was. Obviously not. It was just some sort of partial ride,
Boy, they loved you. They should have hired you.
Yeah, I never really thought about that. Maybe I should have hit them up after college. Hey, remember me? But so that was where my sales. And for me, it wasn't. You
obviously loved it. You must have. You didn't fear walking up to people's doors, or maybe you feared it, but you got over it quickly.
Yeah, it didn't really bother me. And so subsequently, my next couple of sales jobs were door-to-door sales. Yeah. And that's kind of where I got started.
Oh yeah, what kind of door-to-door sales?
I
have to tell you, I hate those.
Yeah. Well, I think that's you're not alone,
guy,
right? You're not alone.
The landscape people,
that's
whatever
right.
it is.
Yeah, I think that. And we'll probably get into this, but I think the reason a lot of people hate them is maybe just the approach that they take. But I guess that's a conversation, maybe even for a different day. So I did roofing, siding, and gutters. I worked for a construction company.
Okay.
We weren't quasi storm chasers like you might hear, but we did help people with storm damage.
But you weren't a storm chaser.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I was helping people who didn't have storm damage too. So I did that, and then. There was my first ever job was my sales job was actually a summer job in college, which was supposed to be a sports marketing job. That's how it was advertised. Yeah. And I played sports my whole life, and I thought maybe I would get into that side of things. Turns out it was a door-to-door sales job, and we were selling like different ticket packages. Our company had partnerships with minor league sports teams. Also some local restaurants. Yep. Like I remember one of our biggest products.
Is it like those book things?
Yeah, it was kind of like it wasn't the full book. It was like a little pamphlet almost, like a fold out, and you'd rip the thing off, and so it was like that. So some smaller stuff, and then I went to obviously went to the roofing.
Is that post college?
Roofing was post college. Yeah, the discount cards were or the whatever they were. Was in college. Yeah. Actually, I remember my parents not being very happy with me because I was making so much money selling those cards door to door, and there was this great opportunity to grow within the company that I thought, well, why do I need to go back to college? This is great. This summer's going great. I'm making all this money. I went back to school. I ended up going back, but and I'm glad I did. Yeah. But, so I love. That's what started me loving sales.
I talked about this numerous guests before, like the face-to-face selling. If you can do that, like face-to-face rejection,
it's a different
one thing. Get an email rejection, right, or a hang-up.
No doubt.
Like the owner's like, "Get out of here. We're not interested."
Right.
You got to thick skin.
You do, face-to-face. I mean, face-to-face is it's a whole other beast. And I mean, I think there's some some skills you can learn from that
Yeah.
as well. But that rejection, no doubt, it helps build thick skin. Someone on the phone tells me to
But I
jump
also think part of the time too, it's like when you're selling face to face, they're a little less nasty too, especially
maybe.
depending on how you approach them.
Actually, I agree with that. I agree with that.
I mean, you're a young guy when you're going up there. What are they? I mean, why are they going to be
right?
You know what I mean? Like you're trying to make a living. You're hopefully opening up the conversation, easing into it, right? Like, and I think to your point, like that. Most of the time, the people coming to the door, my annoyance with them coming to the door is because they're coming to the door and we have 2 dogs that bark like crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a pain in the ass for me that I have to deal with that. And besides, I don't need any services.
Or they come to dinner time or whatever.
Yeah, right?
Right.
Like, what do you? Yeah. So, but look, if they present themselves in the right way,
absolutely,
and they have some sort of value
to
offer, right? Like, you got to assume you're walking up to this neighborhood, this sort of house, that they probably have those services. So,
how can you help them?
Yeah.
How can you help? And that's really where I learned. One of the reasons I think I've been successful in most of my sales career was sort of just always my approach.
Yeah.
And maybe that was starting from the door-to-door days. But, I always looked at sales, I think maybe a little bit differently than some, but I didn't ever really look at my quota or my number. People stress their quota or they're trying to hit their number. I had set personal goals that were above my quota anyways. I was just high-fiving my quota on the way by, right? But the way I would approach sales with a prospect was like, how do I have this conversation where I'm providing a valuable service or product or whatever it is? And so I would kind of approach it that way. And then ultimately that sort of evolved over my career, right?
You looked at it as a conversation. Let's start a conversation, see where it goes, and maybe I can help you, and maybe you can help me, and we'll go from there.
Definitely.
Right?
And I think that's the way you have to sell. I mean, or should.
We're simplifying, but at the end of the day, really, that's what it is, isn't it? It's starting a conversation. For my example here, I primarily only use myself and LinkedIn, and I start the conversation with very simple questions.
Sure.
I'm curious. Are you fully remote today? And it's either yes or no.
Right.
And like 70% of the people will actually respond to that question.
Wow. Yeah.
It sounds like an authentic question, or some people might say, well, why do you ask? Well, great. Here's why I asked.
Right.
And so I don't then sell them something the second response. They ask a follow-up question.
Exactly. Yeah,
but
exactly.
It's starting the conversation, right? Like, I think whether you're going to someone's door or it's an email, you got to think about the thing that's going to start the conversation.
No doubt.
Right.
Absolutely.
And the thing that starts the conversation is the thing that's going to help them. Right.
Yeah, that's right.
So go back to your career again. I'm curious. How did you get hired at ShareFile back in the day?
Okay, so it was interesting. I was actually selling cars at that time. So here I go.
Tell me that.
I didn't. Yeah. Which I mean, I don't have a. So this was the car sales thing. Was
did you sell the undercoating too?
We had some things that were added.
Did you go to the manager's office too?
I'll tell you what. So I had this thought.
I don't know. I'll have to go to my manager's office. I've never seen a deal like this before.
I'm sure. Yeah. I think this is everything we got in it. But let me see if I can get this. So actually, we had a family friend when I was growing up who was our family had met him because he's who we bought all our vehicles from, and he was a great guy and he always treated us good. And the way he sold was not. So anyway, I was looking for a job and a sales job, and I thought, you know what? Let me try to sell cars in a way that isn't the stereotypical sort of nasty car sales. I wouldn't say I failed, but it was. It became apparent relatively quickly that that sales process. It's just the car sales process. At least at that time, at the dealership I was working at, was very back and forth. Yeah. We're going to spend 5 hours negotiating a deal or 6, and that's not what I wanted to do. Right? Yep. I wanted to have genuine conversations with people and help them get into the car of their dreams or a car that would help their family or whatever. And so that was a little bit more challenging, just dealing with the structure and the sales process and management and stuff like that. Yeah. So I randomly applied to this ShareFile job. I think I can't remember what number employee I was.
Moved to the area, I assume.
I was here. Yeah, I was in North Carolina, and I was maybe employee number 50 or
Who interviewed
so.
you? Do you remember? Who was the hiring manager?
John Rosar was. Yeah. And there was another guy.
Take credit for your success, you know that, right?
Well, that's all right. I don't. He's great. John's great. There was another guy named Ted Randall who was there, and he was in a sales role at the time, and so he was a part of that hiring process as well. Yeah. And it was interesting because I had interviewed at 2 places. Mm-hmm. The other interview I felt great about, and the ShareFile interview I thought, I don't think I did very well. I got the ShareFile job and not the other one, which was funny. So anyway, I started at ShareFile. I think I was in the 50 range.
What was the role?
Everyone came in the same role as a lead gen role.
Okay.
So there was
What'd they call it? SDR?
called a lead gen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They called it what it was?
They called it what it was. That's right. So you'd start in lead gen for, somewhere around 3 months was the goal. You try to hit all your metrics and sort of ramp up and get to the point where you could be promoted within 3 months. That was like the fastest you could get promoted, right?
And it was outbound?
Yeah, all outbound. So I've got a lot of friends now who are SDR managers or, work with a lot of SDRs. Yeah. And, we see a certain number of calls that have to be made or emails or touches that have to be made a day. When I started at ShareFile, our job every single day was to make 150 dials, or you could book 6 demos. And so
6 demos a day.
Yeah. So you'd come in, you would either book 6 demos in that day, or you'd make 150 dials, and that's what it would take to go home, really. So people, we'd work till 7 or 8 o'clock at night sometimes just to get your dials in. I mean, I personally preferred to hit the 6 demos booked. I think I did have to make 150 dials a couple times. In my defense, one of those times I had a concussion, so I wasn't feeling myself. Just pickup hockey game.
Otherwise, it was a great place to work. Yeah. Oh, it was a great place.
When you don't have a concussion, it was awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome.
So that was great.
Sit in your seats. I don't care if you're concussed.
I'll tell you something interesting.
Way to go, Razar. Come on, man.
Yeah, you've got your dials. You got a concussion? Pick up the phone. No, it wasn't like that. It does. When I tell that story or I talk about the 150 dials, everyone's like, "Oh, that's a lot of dials." But it really, at least to me, it didn't feel like that. I mean, it didn't feel bad. It was a really enjoyable experience. We were all. It was a different culture. I mean, we were bought in, and we were growing this thing, and so it really felt like we were a tight group. We were working together and trying to achieve something. Yeah. So I don't know. At least for me, that didn't bother me.
If it wasn't, it would have been hell. I mean, you would have left after a month.
Sure.
Otherwise, right?
Yeah.
So did you move on after 3 months?
Yeah, I did. So then you go to we called it an individual closer role. So you're booking your own meetings and performing your own demos. And then after that, you can get promoted to what we call a senior closer. Okay. That's where the lead gen were booking the demos for you. Okay. So you perform. And then every once in a while, at least the senior closers who I think were probably more ambitious, they would also book a few of their own demos. But, your calendar is booked pretty full with 7 or 8 demos a day, usually, as a senior closer. So I went through that, lead gen, individual closer, senior closer, and then I became the director of the AEC, Architecture, Engineering, and Construction vertical.
That sounds exciting, right?
Well, what was exciting about it is it was like building a new small business, right? It was a newer vertical for us, and we were the product was very successful. The ShareFile product was very successful in accounting. Yes. Early on, that was kind of our biggest vertical, and then naturally, as we're growing and scaling, we're trying to find other verticals, and so architecture, engineering, and construction was great, mostly for large file transfer at the time. So I got to help grow that vertical out, and we built that out to be one of our biggest verticals over time. Yep. And then from there into management, and from management to training. Yep.
And what type? You say it was all internal training when you were there, right?
That's right. Yeah, I was training our SMB sales teams, and I was doing worldwide training. So I was training folks. We had some folks in Ireland, so I was training them as well. Most of what I did was a lot of what I did was our new closer training program. Yeah. So basically teaching people getting promoted from lead gen into closing. How do we sell? What is the structure? What is the methodology? What is the framework? And then built in that were some sales skills as well. Yeah.
How often do you reinforce?
That's a great question, and it's part of, I'll say, I think one of the things that makes what I'm doing now different than probably what exists a lot out there. I think, there are really 4, at least in my eyes, I think there are 4 critical components to a good training program, which is great content, practice, reinforcement, and accountability. You have to have those 4 things, all 4 things.
Say them again.
It's great content. Yeah. Starts with great content, practice, reinforcement, and accountability.
What's great content mean in this context?
Yeah, so I think when I think of great content, I think that you have to have content which is, first of all, it teaches people to sell the right way, or it gives them the right skills or skills that are applicable.
So the materials you give to the sales,
or how you deliver it, and then the other thing is it's not just the physical content, like the methodology or the framework itself, but also the way it's delivered.
Yeah.
It needs to be delivered in an engaging way,
Yeah.
Interactive if possible, right? All these different things that go into ultimately the adoption rate of that content.
Right.
So, that's what generally there are a lot of things that go into great content. Yeah. It's not just the material, but how it's delivered and things like that. And then from there, it's again, practice and reinforcement. So the practice piece is up to the individual, right? The individual needs to take that information and practice and use it as much as they can. Reinforcement comes down to managers helping reinforce that. And then accountability, again, can come from themselves internally, managers, and so on.
Yeah.
So you have to have those four things. And that all started from your question, which was how did we reinforce the content with Citrix? And, I would say that our managers at the time did a great job of trying to go back through and reinforce the content that was delivered in that training program that I delivered. One thing that I probably didn't do a great job of was giving very specific opportunities to reinforce that, or even scheduling or prescribing ways to reinforce the content or when they should reinforce that, right? And so in hindsight, that's one of the things that I actually have changed with the way I train now. Is I really am heavy on that reinforcement piece, practice and accountability and all those things.
And that's my thing as a longtime sales leader is like, the sales kickoff kind of training stuff. It's like, okay, it's good.
Right.
But I often found then you leave.
Then what?
There's no reinforcement.
Exactly.
There's no practice to your point. And it's like, that was that thing we did at sales kickoff. Then next year comes around, you revisit what you did last year.
Yep.
And you're like, oh, we did that last year. Well, yeah, do it again.
Right.
You didn't reinforce it last
That's
year.
right.
So, and that's also my beef with hiring a third-party trainer, which I have no problem with. But like, if it's for show, meaning entertainment value, that's cool. If we don't spend your money on. But if it's truly to improve the performance of your sales organization, obviously it needs to be customized for your team and your organization. But then again, the reinforcement, reinforcement.
Couldn't agree more.
So
Vince,
but it's like
so important.
That's the biggest failure, and it's just like save your money if you're not going to, as a company, as a sales organization, to agree to hold them accountable for this, and
that's right,
and to reinforce it.
Yeah, I think
because it means you don't believe in it then.
Yeah, well, yeah. If you don't have if you don't have a very clear plan for reinforcement, I mean, we all know people only you only retain so much information the first time you go through it or hear it or read it. And if you don't have a clear plan for reinforcement, I think that's a huge miss. So I've seen that as a huge opportunity because I agree. Everything you just said is exactly right.
I'm not going to tell you what you should be doing as a trainer, but like where I'd see the value is if I want out to be specifically a trainer is that I'm not doing this one-off. Let's do a year arrangement. And I'm going to be your coach for the team for a year and reinforce all these things.
That's it. That's what we do.
Yeah.
So
wow, hey, it's got a business.
Yeah, it turns out that's exactly so.
You must get a great reaction to that.
I mean, I think we've had a lot of the program is successful because one, I mean, obviously I'm biased, but the content is good. We focus on it's not crazy that people can't understand it or it's completely out of the box.
Sales isn't new.
That's right. So I teach it's good content, and I think I teach it in a good way. Yeah. But what we'll do is we'll do that initial sort of, if it's a business we're working with, it's an initial sort of rollout where we get to learn the business, learn how the business sells, learn about, and like you said, we do some customization with the program. So we're actually delivering it to them in the way they sell. And then from there, though, the whole second half of that we do is, again, I think novel in a way, which is the constant reinforcement. So we do ongoing mastermind calls or deal review type of calls where we'll go twice a week, or twice a month.
That's the best way to see if it's reinforced.
Exactly. Yeah. And so we'll talk about specific deals. We'll talk about training concepts, all these things throughout the course of a year. So they're really getting it. But more than that, we take it even a step further. And we give folks access to our interactive system where, and this is one of the things I'm most proud of, because if you're an organization that really wants to develop reps, you don't just say you want to, but you really want them to develop. You need to be able to have them trained, coached, reinforced, all of those things on an ongoing basis, but also on a custom basis for what they need. And so a lot of times what I'll see a team do is sales manager gets up, we're doing this monthly training, which is better than nothing. That's great. But that sales manager is talking to their entire team, and they're talking about a concept that maybe only helps 20, 30, 40% of that team, right? Yeah. So one of the things we do with our interactive system is this system, anyone can go in anytime they want to. They can review it's the same training content, just on an e-learning platform. But it's not just log in, press play, boring videos. It's interactive. I ask questions throughout. They have to interact with the information. There are role play opportunities within the system. But more than that, if you're a manager, you can go in and say, Vince, I noticed you've been struggling with your discovery. So I'm going to assign you the discovery sessions in this training program. Now you go through, there's accountability there because it's tracked and you get reports and all that. And then someone else on the team, maybe they struggle with presentations.
That's true. Everyone's an individual.
That's right.
They learn differently. They struggle with certain things, strengths and weaknesses wise. So that's smart. You're customizing the ongoing side of it, right?
So what you said is right. You said it exactly right. What did I say? Well, what you said is you have to have you said, I'm not going to tell you how to do your job, but here's how I would do it. That's what you said. And what you said is exactly right. You can do the initial training. And then you have to have ongoing reinforcement.
Hey, last topic I want to go into, because we talked about this a little bit off camera. Selling versus pitching.
Yes. Yeah. So for me, I think, pitching is, and I say pitching, but pitching is not the way to sell. You got to stop pitching if you really want to sell. And what I mean by that is, I think folks need to have those genuine conversations. First, it starts with the mindset that you have to be genuinely curious, and you have to be willing to help your prospects, trying to find a way to help your prospects. So the best salespeople are the ones who can have a genuine conversation with someone, understand someone's personal situation or their business, and figure out a way for their product or service to then help them. That's sales. And I think far too often, you probably see a lot of salespeople who will just dive into their pitch, right? Or they'll just feature pitch a bunch of features about their product or service, not knowing exactly how that would help you. And they focus too much on just hitting their number rather than actually helping people. Focus on helping people, you'll hit your number. You won't have to worry about the number.
I think if you think more like a marketer, I think you'll have more success. Because what I found the trend to be, and it didn't just start, but it's like you've really got to stop and take time to build the relationship, especially if you're using social selling as the mechanism to start the conversation, right? Used to be email worked really well. It doesn't work very well anymore. Used to be that people picked up their phones, they had office desks, and not saying you can't do cold calling, but less and less people are picking up phones. That's right. And they're not listening to voicemails. So the point of the matter is where you can engage with them is on social. And if you're going to use social selling, then you've got to be in for the long game. And you've got to take your time.
That's true.
To establish a relationship before you just like, la, 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 la. And we all get hit with the LinkedIn messages of just random nonsense that has nothing to do with me or my company or anything, right? So it's...
but I think what compounds there is when you've got someone who's reaching out to you blindly on, let's just say LinkedIn in this scenario, and they hit you with that pitch immediately. Like here's what we do. Here's all this stuff, and I'm going to completely transform your life or your business. You don't know anything about them. So go in and just look. The truth of the matter is, they know you're a salesperson.
Of course.
So start the conversation with, look, this is what we do, and I'd like to see if there's an opportunity to help you. Focus the conversation around helping people is the point. You ever had someone just throw a bunch of stuff on you or just pitch
every day? Every day. And like, look, I'll answer my phone to random calls.
Me too.
Because I love to challenge people that long. I'm like, what do you want?
That's right.
It's like, dude, you called. I picked up the phone. What is it?
Right.
I had a meeting 2 weeks ago with a CEO here. And he said, hey, I got to take this call. I said, cool. Because he also likes to answer these calls. Same thing. The salesperson got him live. Stammer. He's like, how can I help you? Don't be surprised when someone picks up the phone. Be ready to ask the first question or whatever, however you're going to start the conversation. So it's like right there, that CEO is like, I'm done because you don't even, like, you're wasting my time right now.
Right, exactly.
And it's not, hi, I'm calling you from Sales HQ and I like to sell you. It's like, no.
Right.
Hey, how you doing?
Like, let's just, can we just have a normal conversation?
And that's 2 minutes.
Right.
Here's what I want to talk to you about. We solved this thing. You're at this vertical, like our other clients. I'm hoping that maybe I can help you too, but I'm just starting a conversation.
You got it. That's right.
Like we've had normal human being, right?
Yeah, right.
And I'd relate sales back to, again, like if you're walking into a bar or a networking event, do you walk up to somebody at a networking event and just start spewing stuff about your company?
I mean, maybe people do that. I don't know.
And they do that,
Yeah.
and those people are ignored, and then they're standing in the corner at the end of the event because everyone's like, that annoying person just handing me the business card.
Right.
I'm like, dude, keep your business card in your pocket. First of all, having a business card to me is anyway. Don't get me started.
Yeah, here we go.
Right.
We got them fired up.
but isn't it funny? Like, if we just simplify sales,
No
it's
doubt.
not so hard.
That's right.
If you don't just focus on results.
That's right. The number, right? Making the sale.
You talked about it earlier, right? You never focused on the number because you weren't concerned about hitting your numbers. So what did that lead to? That led you doing really smart and good activities.
That's right. Yeah, and I set my own, I would set my own goal. I had my own goals that were above a
Right.
quota. Let's face it. I mean, a quota is theoretically should be the minimum number that the business needs you to hit. That's like a minimum requirement of your job.
Yes.
That's why they're paying you.
Yes.
So, and now look, did I hit my personal goal every time? No.
Yeah.
But when I fell short of that personal goal, I was still well above my quota.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes. I do.
And so anyway, that's probably a whole nother conversation about mindset and being willing to.
I'll give you
yourself.
one last example. We started talking about this. So I'll also respond to people on LinkedIn with some sales things that are interested in pitching me something at Sales HQ. And some young gentleman reached out to me, and I said, he was pitching me on specifically just wanting a demo. I said, hey, I'll tell you what, I will not only give you a demo, I will allow you to provide a demo to me and others.
Wow.
If you just join a networking event I'm hosting
I
next week
see.
here at Sales HQ. Simple instructions. I'm going to give you give me some, something about, which, by the way, going to a networking event is not punishment. It's actually a good thing.
Yeah, that's true.
So a couple of days go by, I hear nothing back from him. And what does he do? He says, hey, are you still interested in schedule a demo? First of all, I said, it's never interested in scheduling a demo. And you didn't follow my instructions. I said, see above.
Right.
So he said, oh, hey, sorry about that. What does he do? Goes back to pitching again a demo. I finally said, let me get this straight. You're just paid on scheduling demos? He goes, yes.
Exactly.
I'm like, so how transactional is that? Like,
Right.
how short? I literally gave him the formula for not only demoing me, but he could have had 10 demos that day.
Right. That's
And
right.
He ignored it because he's so focused on today, I need to get whatever the number is, 10 demos, 6 demos, or whatever it is. I'm like, talk about someone either who needs a lot more coaching or shouldn't be in sales, one or the other.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, probably. I mean,
You couldn't even help him.
one of the things, I don't know about all that. I'll take on the challenge, but I mean, that's one of the things I love about sales is, people can get in, almost anyone can get into sales. And I hear it all the time. Oh, I could never do sales. I could never do sales. Sure, you could. In fact, some of the best sellers that I've ever met are not people who are overly energetic and all these.
100% agree.
But with that said, this guy, this person that you were talking about,
You have to be coachable.
you have to be coachable, and it sounds like that person needed some coaching.
Or he shouldn't be in sales. Again,
Right.
he's focused on the wrong things.
Right.
But hey, we can go on and on and on. Before I let you go, I got a tough question I have to ask you.
Please,
You better be ready. Just mentally prepare yourself.
I'll do my best.
Okay.
No, I think I'll be all right.
What is something about Josh that's interesting that most people don't know?
Yeah, that is.
And don't tell me like you're a big NC State Pac fan. Like
I like state.
that's good, but it's not interesting.
Yeah,
There's lots of
maybe
people
it's not
that
interesting to you. No, I'm just kidding.
It's interesting to other Pac fans.
Yeah, that's
but
right.
That's about it.
Something interesting about me, I would say that probably a lot of people don't know this. So I am, I'm 6'2" now. The interesting fact is that I graduated high school. I was 5'4",
Come on.
like 140 pounds, and I grew 7 inches my first year of college. So
Wow.
I came home and my grandma started crying. She was like, "Oh, you're beautiful. I never thought you were gonna grow." And so, bless her heart. Yeah. So that's not something. Maybe it's
in a year.
Maybe it's interesting. Maybe it's not. But it's not something a lot of people know about me. So
That's freakish, really, Josh.
I hurt. My whole body hurt.
I bet.
Yeah, my whole body hurt. I mean, that was.
What's wrong with you? Did you drink some?
I don't know what happened. I mean,
like
first year
drinks. Like what was it?
I mean, I always drank a lot of
beer.
It might have been a couple beers in there. Yeah, I don't know what it was.
You had the growth spurt.
I just grew. It took me until
So you said you played high school football?
I did, yeah.
At 140 pounds?
Well, yeah, and my problem. That's actually part of the reason I ended up. So I got unfortunately had quite a few concussions, and In fact, at one point I had, this maybe is another interesting fact, I had 3 concussions in a month.
Ooh.
And my doctor told me that
You're done.
he would no longer clear me to
Yeah.
play. And part of that reason was he's like, you're out there playing with giants. You're tiny.
Yeah.
And I mean, in his defense,
wasn't wrong.
there were a lot of big guys
Yeah.
out there, and I was not big.
Yeah.
So yeah, 3 concussions in a month.
Wide receiver.
No, quarterback in corner. Yeah, some of those concussions were a little scary, but I mean, it was probably a good time to hang it up.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I ended up playing sport. I played other sports pretty much my entire life. And
Well, that is interesting. I'll give you that.
will you give it to
I
me?
will.
Okay. All right.
I've heard worse,
Thank you.
you know, but hey, man, I really appreciate you coming on, telling
Thank
your
you.
story today.
course.
How can people find you?
Yeah. So my training program is called Pitchless Selling. Pitchless Selling.
I like it.
We've been talking about
like it.
no pitch, but of course LinkedIn is
Yep.
fine. Josh Hein, it's Hein, like Heinz ketchup, but no Z. So it's an
No
easy.
relation, unfortunately.
That's exactly right. That's what everybody says. Oh, too bad, no Z. Yeah. So just Josh Hein on LinkedIn. Reach out, send me a
That's
message or whatever. I'm glad to.
We'll have information in the speaker notes too. Hey, man, thanks for coming on.
Yeah. Thank you very
Until
much.
next time, Sales HQ.